This is something, it's a longer clip, but you may not know that this happened. And I want to get into how it affected Andrew Breitbart and myself. And this was very formative for me. This is a very important time in American history. This was the first time that you saw this publicly with a black Supreme Court justice. This brings us to a segment I'm very excited. I've been a fan for a long time that Clarence Thomas is a pimp.
I'm just a civil servant.
I know he's Lance. Snoop Dogg.
Probably should have bleeped that, but
No, it did. Yeah, probably.
all right.
Yeah, everybody's heard that song.
So we have top 5 Clarence Thomas moments, and a lot of you may not remember all of these. I like Clarence Thomas a lot, just to be clear. The fact that the big outrage was that he made a joke about a pube on a Coke can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just makes me, I would rather clerk for him than anyone else. As opposed to being, everyone else, oh, these hallowed halls. Look, I got somebody's ass hair on my can. Ah!
Patriarchy.
Yeah.
It's just patriarchy talking.
It's like, good. He seems like he has a sense of humor.
Be fun to work with.
Don't you love how they say he's an angry black man? She says, he was, what was the term she used there? She tried to say he was grievous.
Yeah, I don't even know what she meant.
Okay, Dickens.
Yeah.
He was grievous. Some would say avarice.
He would fill people with great misfortune.
Yes. When he would walk these hallowed halls, I found myself overwhelmed with a sense of dread.
For he was black,
Yes. He darkened the hallway.
I mean, quite literally.
When I was working night shifts, I could only see his eyes and teeth.
Yeah.
This is Hillary, by the way.
I'm Hillary Clinton, a racist.
Allegedly.
Glad you clarified.
So I like that about Clarence Thomas. And I'm sorry, I won't go along with the idea that just because you're a justice, you can't have a sense of humor, or that is sexual harassment. It is not targeted sexual harassment. That being said, they had nothing to go on, so they tried to make a mountain out of that molehill, and of course they incorporated race into it. So let's go here, number 5, and we're going to go kind of in order. Well, first let's set this up. Joe Biden, and you'll see exactly why I love this clip. He was a clueless rube back then who was good for nothing outside of doublespeak and making other people laugh and or say, huh, during Thomas's confirmation.
Finding out what you mean when you say that you would apply the natural law philosophy to the Constitution is, in my view, the single most important task of this committee. I just want to make sure we all know.
How does he have more hair now than then?
You and I know.
I don't know.
There's a fervent and aggressive school of thought that wishes to see natural law further inform the Constitution than it does now, argued against by the positivists led by Judge Bork. Now, again, that may be lost on all the people. You know and I know what we're talking about.
You know, boy.
Someone may apply
and
it in
I
a way,
know, boy.
like Moore, who leads him in a direction that is, quote, liberal. You may apply it in a way that leads you in a direction that's conservative. Or you may, like many argue, not apply it at all. But it is a fundamental question that is going to be almost impossible for non-lawyers to grasp in an exchange. But you know and I know.
Yeah, but when was the last time you practiced law, Joey? Didn't he attain public office in 28 years old?
Yeah, it's pretty.
I gotta be honest. Yeah. I'm kind of glad he's losing his mind.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, because now at least it's unintelligible. Well, he's crazy, but back then you were just, he's dumb.
Yeah.
Really, well, but Dave, and I know.
You know here, boy. I know, son.
And he just pulls out a skull. You see these 3 dimples? All right, Joe. Not
that's
something.
No.
That's enough.
It makes him subservient. Joe, please.
Now you go out there, Clarence, and you get me a switch. You hear? Now here's the thing. That was nonsensical.
He's so racist.
I know it was nonsensical. And this is when they say he was a grievous person.
Mm-hmm.
Clarence Thomas, I just love. He was a happy warrior. The way he addressed it in this documentary, with a smile, and it's as perfectly dismissive as you can ask for.
Senator Biden was very focused on natural law. How did that go?
Who knows? I have no idea what he was talking about. All I know is that he was asking me these questions about natural law. One of the things you do in hearings is you have to sit there and look attentively at people you know have no idea what they're talking about.
Throw your hands in the air if you's a true player. I love it when you call me Big Pop. To the honeys getting money, playing niggas like dummies.
A grievous person.
Grievous.
He could have just said he's a. Let me see if I can get these headphones on.
I couldn't.
Very grievous.
You have to get your hat back on, Gerald.
Why?
This segment goes on for a while. It gets worse.
We're not the first people to wear headphones with these hats.
How do I do that? How am I supposed to do this?
I don't know. Figure it out. You're
Hey,
white.
Lean it forward. Lean it forward. It'll work.
All right, fine. I'll lean it forward and I'll turn off my
Like this.
I just
like you're in studio.
and don't be shy with your horn work there, Yakuza. That's his nice way of saying he's an idiot.
Correct.
He sounded like an idiot. That's why.
He's an absolute idiot. And here's the important thing too. You saw this with Kavanaugh. There's nothing new under the sun. This guy really was, and it'll bring me to a point that I want to make. I want to close this segment with that guy there, Andrew Breitbart. Just so you know, without Clarence Thomas, you wouldn't have had Andrew Breitbart, which you wouldn't have had Breitbart Inc. It was watching what effectively amounted to, I'll let Clarence describe it, but a public lynching in the town square that turned that man conservative. So allowing the left to try and cancel and commit character assault, guess what? There's value in that when they're so far off the beam. So this happened with Clarence Thomas early on. And that's why I think I've read biographies on him. He's a fascinating character and very consistent with the law. So let's go to moment number 4. And this is something, again, this is why they hate him so much. You'll notice a theme. People who they really don't like are people who completely disregard the elitism. So this is that time that Justice Clarence Thomas called out the Supreme Court's elitist mentality.
One of the things that happens up here is we tend to be very heavily Northeastern in our mentality. We're 8 of the 9 of us are from Ivy League schools. This court doesn't represent all regions of the country. There's a tendency, there's an easiness to sort of to be almost cliquish in that way with law clerks and et cetera. I like the idea of getting out to be around the citizens, the other citizens in the country, the people who make it all work, the people who put out our fires, the people who build our homes, the people who fight our wars. I like being around them. I also like the idea that their kids can come up here and clerk, that they can be a part of all this.
Throw your hands in the air if you's a true player. To the honeys getting money, playing niggas like dummies.
Here's the thing. Again, that's indicative. I have to hold this headphone. That's indicative of a guy who didn't think that he was too good for the rest of you, or that the institution was too important to be criticized. Think about Donald Trump, right? He stood in the way between the elitists and you. That's the same thing with Clarence Thomas on that bench. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what Hillary Clinton says about him. He does not care. A lot of people don't think that Clarence Thomas be what he is, but it do.
He's not bigger than the game.
Which brings me to another point here. I'm going to have to take off these glasses for this.
That we're all
moment.
dressed like Ric Flair.
Yes. Woo, woo, woo. I'm a little more Macho Man Randy Savage with the glasses.
Let me tell you something, brother. I'm gonna make a Supreme Court decision that'll make your skin crawl. Yeah.
Snap into a Slim Jim or a tree off a Tampa freeway.
This brings us to moment number 3. Okay? And this is Clarence Thomas's decision relatively recently in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. And he dropped the metaphorical hammer, saying, the constitutional right to bear arms in public for self-defense is not a second-class right. This is a through line you'll see. Look, he's saying we are all citizens of the United States. He just said that there. It's not, there's the firefighter, and there's the policeman, or there's the garbage man, and then there's me, a justice. He's saying there is no second-class right. It's a right or it's not for all people. That's how it's supposed to work here. To bear arms in public for self-defense is not a second-class right subject to an entirely different body of rules than the other Bill of Rights guarantees. That is not how the First Amendment works when it comes to unpopular speech or the free exercise of religion. It is not how the Sixth Amendment works when it comes to a defendant's right to confront the witnesses against him. And it is not how the Second Amendment works when it comes to public carry for self-defense. Damn! You kind of left me on a limb there, Casey.
I'm so sorry.
Yakuza.
I'm so sorry.
You're still sorry.
I'm sorry.
Notorious PAG.
You can't play it.
Throw your hands in the air if you's a true player.
All right, that one kind of passed us by. Just be ready for the next one.
I'm going to keep
I
going.
thought he was doing it after clips, but hey. No, it's an incredibly important comment that he made there. He left no ambiguity for people. And this is what pisses people off, because they're saying he can control what a state can do with the Second Amendment versus abortion, where they can't control it. It's like, now it's a state's right for abortion, but you're controlling as the court what they can do. And he's like, no, you're placing unnecessary restrictions on a right already given specifically by the Constitution.
And I think really important is his word. It's not a second-class right.
Yeah.
That is a big difference between if you look at people like the Sotomayors. Now, maybe they don't feel this way, but they try and rule that way. Where they say, well, hold on a second, we have armed security, but it's different for us because we're, and you're not. And he was saying, no, the fireman has just as much of a right to defend himself as I do, as a Supreme Court justice. Again, it's anti-elitism that you see from Justice Thomas, which, by the way, that's not a pimp hat, that's a gay cowboy hat, but it works. This brings me to moment number 2. And this is just something that I think
wears it.
Got my name, my last initial on it.
Moment number 2 is, this is kind of almost a life creed that you hear from Clarence Thomas. But again, if you've read enough of his work and if you've watched enough interviews of him, you will see that this is consistently how he expresses himself. Where what you do, what actions you take, and the decisions that he makes as a Supreme Court justice cannot be dictated by societal circumstance or by what people want him to do. So this is number 2. Here he is dropping some words to live by.
You can be in the middle of a hurricane, or you can be on a calm day. North is still north. You could be in a thunderstorm. North is still north. People can yell at you. North is still north. It doesn't change fundamental things. And in this business, right is still right, even if you stand by yourself.
Throw your hands in the air if you's a true player. I love it when you call me Big Pop. To the honeys getting money, playing niggas like dummies.
I don't think there's a whole lot more to say on that one. This brings us to moment number 1. And this is a big one for those of you who are younger watching. And you know what? I'd love to see a comment below. I know a lot of you watching right now, you might be 18. You might be 22. The majority of our viewers and listeners are under the age of 30. So you may not be as familiar with, what they tried on Brett Kavanaugh. They tried with Justice Clarence Thomas first, only with what they call a whiff of racism mixed in. So first off here, before we get to, I want to make sure the final clip is the final clip is Clarence Thomas. Is that C2 or is that clip C?
Clip C.
Okay, so I want to hit the other one first.
Yep.
So he was accused of sexually harassing, not raping, making unwanted advances, making Anita Hill uncomfortable in the workplace. It's complete bullcrap. All references are available at louderwithcrowder.com. There were a lot of accusations made about him, too, that he was a regular at a pornography store, a video store, where the timelines couldn't have added up. Oh, isn't that a trend like we see with Brett Kavanaugh because he didn't live in that area at that time? They tried to make him seem like he was a pervy old black man, the evil, promiscuous black man who's going after all the white women. That was their mode of attack. And the lady at first who made this accusation, was anonymous. And if the accusations were true, Thomas would have known who had made them. Anita Hill admitted to lying at least 5 times under oath, just to be clear. And even then, if you look at the accusations that were made, they're really not that bad, even though they're false. Now, other female colleagues who had worked with Thomas for years, many years, rose to his defense.
With him at least once a day. He never made an inappropriate advance, uttered an off-color remark, or used coarse language in my presence. I was younger and more politically active than Anita Hill. I was the first person to bring and introduce him to a luncheon with Thomas Sowell and others at the Capitol Hill Club. During
Being
this
defended by
entire
Mario
period,
Lemieux.
he never made any inappropriate actions towards me or any other female with whom I saw him.
In addition to working with Clarence Thomas at the Department of Education, I shared an office with him for 2 years in this building. Our desks were a few feet apart. Because we worked in
share a
such
closet
close
with the
quarters,
Joker?
I could hear virtually every conversation for 2 years that Clarence Thomas had. Not once in those 2 years did I ever hear Clarence Thomas make a sexist or offensive comment. Not once.
No. Now, to be fair, good Lord, Yakuza. To be fair, those women might have what you call a sense of humor. So they didn't say that Justice Clarence Thomas never made a joke about a short and curly on his Coke can. They said he never made... How is that sexist, by the way?
Right, yeah.
It's not.
There's nothing... If anything, you'd probably be looking in the direction of the guys. Correct. Like, if I found a short and curly, I'd be like, Dave, I'm looking in your direction.
Huh?
Don't manscape in the office fridge.
I think we all know it's not me. I'm as smooth as butter.
He's like a hairless mouse. It's true.
It's true.
So obvious he wasn't
Manscaped.
talking sexually. It was probably somebody's hair from their head, and he's
No,
like,
but
it looks
what-
like a pube.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good pickup line. Is this your pube?
Yeah. Who's been naked around the Coke cans again?
Who's this guy?
It's lonely. I think I need to see the rest of them.
Yeah.
Like, that's what happened.
Yeah.
So even then, again, he had women lining up, woman after woman, saying, no, that's not true. And then, of course, you had Anita Hill, who had to say, well, yeah, I did lie under oath a bunch of times. There was nothing to corroborate it. There was an investigation. And this is something, it's a longer clip, but you may not know that this happened. And I want to get into how it affected Andrew Breitbart and myself. And this was very formative for me. This is a very important time in American history. This was the first time that you saw this publicly with a black Supreme Court justice. This had been going on for a long time. It was a circus, kind of like Brett Kavanaugh.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not sure if these are the opening statements that we have in the clip or the closing statements, but this had been a media circus throughout the entire process, right? Once it was even announced that he was potentially going to be a pick, accusations, and he had to endure this. And Clarence Thomas, incredibly articulately, and I think in a very historic way, addressed the false accusations. He was canceled and Me Too'd first.
Senator, I would like to start by saying unequivocally, uncategorically, that I deny each and every single allegation against me today. I think that this today is a travesty. I think that it is disgusting. I think that this hearing should never occur in America. I think something is dreadfully wrong with this country when any person in this free country,
not just me,
any person, be subjected to this. This is not a closed room. There was an FBI investigation.
Just like Kavanaugh.
This is not an opportunity to talk about difficult matters privately or in a closed environment. This is a circus. It's a national disgrace. And from my standpoint, as a black American, as far as I'm concerned, it is a high-tech lynching for uppity blacks who in any way deign to think for themselves, to do for themselves, to have different ideas.
Get it?
And it is a message that unless you kowtow to an old order, this is what will happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
You will be lynched, destroyed, caricatured by a committee of the U.S. Senate rather than hung from a tree.
It's just a bigger piece of cake for me to chew a hole through. I just love when a nigga bring his whole crew. It's just a bigger piece of cake for me to chew a hole through.
I got blood on my hands and there's no remorse. And got blood on my dick cause I fucked the corpse. I'm a nasty nigga. When you pass me, nigga, look me in my eye. Tell me to my fucking face that you ready to die. You be a dead motherfucker, red motherfucker.
Stop with the...
Sorry.
Jeez. Well, see, we stopped cutting to my dry humping.
Should have edited the DMX.
He's fired after this show.
It just felt appropriate.
Yeah.
No, I think that was right.
Yeah.
That's about right. Yeah.
So,
that was right.
I'm going to take off this hat now so I can hear and you can shut off the speaker. But my word, think about what he just said there. The constant through line is no one, not just me.
Yeah.
No one. It wasn't I'm the hope and change. It was no one should go through this. It wasn't Hillary Clinton. Where when I was at this school and we were at the Ivy League, it was no American should have to endure this. There's no due process.
No.
This isn't a closed room. This is a message to Americans that if they try and achieve better, if they try and, for example, some people use the analogy now, go off the plantation, particularly for black people, that they will go after you and they will ruin your reputation. Nothing that any of these black conservatives saying today is new. And I'm not saying they shouldn't say it. No one's saying it better than Clarence Thomas said it.
Yeah.
It was the original cancel. It was a combination of canceling due to opinions, because he was a black man with the wrong opinions, a little bit of Me Too mixed in there, and a little bit of fake news.
Yeah.
All the above.
What do you think was different about him at Yale?
Yeah.
I wonder what it was.
I wonder what it was.
I put my finger on.
Oh, you mean that he actually deserved to be there and was, good?
Oh, I mean,
Unlike
probably really had to work for it.
Unlike Barack Obama, who was never published in the Harvard Review ever. The only editor of the Harvard Review not published, the Harvard Journal. Sorry.
Well,
I remember seeing that. Oh, sorry.
You can't make these comments in any other forum and not face legal consequences. Like his point that he's making, the Senate can just throw out. I mean, when they have these committee hearings, they can just throw out whatever they want without evidence. This is exactly why Johnny Depp sued Amber Heard, because it had a demonstrable impact on his career. Imagine if he doesn't get confirmed. Imagine if, by the way, and just remember, this is circa racial jungle Joe Biden leading this, right? Just remember who we're talking about.
To be clear, he said, I don't want my kids raised in a racial jungle. That's what Joe Biden said. Back before he installed the pipe cleaners.
Yeah. So let's say he's not confirmed. What does he go back to doing? Now you've been branded and confirmed a racist by these people. Or not a racist, I'm sorry, a sex offender by these people. Somebody who's
not even a sex offender. A guy who made a sex-oriented joke.
Yeah,
well, turning a slight thing into making you appear to be a sex offender.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that was really one of the first times that you saw the news become that weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
even let's say he did go to a porno video store, which he didn't.
No.
It wouldn't be relevant.
Right.
They just decided, what can we bring out that makes this guy look bad? What can we bring out that he doesn't? Here's what it is. It's a game of inches where they just want to make you quit.
Yeah.
Right. You saw this using Amber Heard as an example. They just go, do you really want people to think that you have some penthouse letters? You really want that going public? Today it would be, you really want your pictures from iCloud going public? Or do we settle this? They just want enough leverage. You know what? We might be able to say you went to a porno store. You know what? We might be able to say that you made some advances as a black woman. Hey, you also have a penchant for white women. We might find some people in college who say that you hit on them at a party. Do you really want, how about you step back? That's what we're talking about when we say fight like hell. Fight like hell is plant your feet now. Don't step back now. Clarence Thomas has never, to the best of my knowledge, taken a step back. He's the only person I can say that about.
Yeah, and they did this with Kavanaugh. We didn't do this with Kagan. We didn't do this with Ginsburg. Like, that's not how Republicans tend to go after your policies, the decisions that you've made. They bring up questions about those things, but they don't accuse you of rape or making inappropriate sexual advances on employees for saying stuff like that. But here's the
they ask you why you smoked crack with a domestic terrorist in college, that kind of stuff.
Here's the through line for me. January 6 hearings are going on right now. What they're doing is throwing out accusations. It's more political theater. It is not trying to get to the truth of a matter.
Right.
In the Kavanaugh situation and Clarence Thomas situation, they weren't trying to get to the truth. They were trying to push a narrative. Same thing with January 6th. That's all that's going on. You can't do that anywhere else.
Right.
Except in these committee hearings.
In these committee hearings, you can do it in media, and professors can do it. It's professors, fact checkers, media, and these committee hearings. I thought you were about to say something, Dave. And this is something I wanted to mention here. Without Clarence Thomas, there is no Andrew Breitbart. So I was one of the first 4 contributors before it was a Breitbart anything. It was a Big Hollywood /Breitbart.com, because it was a shoestring budget. Someone else had Big Hollywood. So that was the original Breitbart place. And it was a place for people in Hollywood, actors, directors, producers, where they could actually write whatever they wanted, and they could be conservative and not worry about having an editor axe it. So in other words, it was like a conservative version of the Huffington Post. That's how it started. Andrew Breitbart wasn't always conservative. And the Clarence Thomas hearings, and this is why sometimes when people say, well, why don't you start another nonprofit? Well, why don't you do go into schools or create a curriculum? Because guess what? Seeing is believing, and seeing what was taking place in front of him with Clarence Thomas, a young, primarily left-leaning I would never say he wasn't like today's progressives, but primarily left-leaning by default, Andrew Breitbart, watched it unfold, and that was what changed him. Here's what he said. It was, I'll do that, Andrew. It was impossible for me to not recognize that Clarence Thomas being black was part of the story. How in hell could white Americans, Leahy, Biden, and Metzenbaum, let alone former KKK Grand Poobah Robert Byrd and Chappaquiddick's very own Ted Kennedy, so arrogantly excoriate this man whose personal narrative, from sharecropper's grandson to Supreme Court nominee, embodied the American dream? I did not leave the Clarence Thomas hearings a Republican, he wrote. This was the exact point, though, I realized, not just that I disagreed with the Democratic Party, but more important, that the media were its dominant partner in crime. So just allowing the left be as the left do and shining a light on it, guess what? We always talk about this with abortion. Hey, could be the next cure for cancer. Hey, it could be the next, insert here, could be the next Churchill, could be the next George Washington, right? We have no idea. Hey, you know what? Right now, one of the hundreds of thousands of people across Mug Club, across YouTube, right now, live this second, let alone the millions once this is archived, one of you may be the next Andrew Breitbart. One of you may be the next Clarence Thomas. Because you see what's happening, and all that is required is the truth to be contrasted with it. And that's what we do. We fight like hell with the truth. And that's what Clarence Thomas has been doing for a very, very long time. So once the shine is gone, and nobody else is talking about Clarence Thomas, first off, go back and see all of the pieces that we've done on Clarence Thomas in the past. But I want you to pay attention to him in the future, even if they seem like minute rulings, and you will find something incredibly consistent. You will find that Clarence Thomas, throughout his entire career, win, lose, or draw, popular or not, has not made it about him or made it about him being a more capable justice. He's always made it about, look, we either have these rights and freedoms in this country, meaning everybody does or nobody does. And that's why the left has tried to destroy him, and they're trying to do it with everyone now. All these public figures now, whether you're running for governor or whether you could be the next Supreme Court justice, they did it to Clarence Thomas first. This has been Based Clarence Thomas.
I'm just a civil servant. I know he's
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.